How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and today I'm giving you guys my review and thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder. This is the newest MCU film and newest Thor film, and is once again directed by Taika Waititi, who directed Thor: Ragnarok, which is still one of my favorite MCU movies, and also once again starring Chris Hemsworth as Thor, who has been playing this character for 11 years. It's been 11 years since the first Thor film. And in this film, we see Thor dealing with trying to move on from all the tragedy that he's been through. It's a sequel to Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame. And gotten back into shape. He's still protecting the universe. But now he's got to stop Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, and also reunite with Jane Foster, who becomes the Mighty Thor, played by Natalie Portman. So with Thor: Love and Thunder, it is similar to Thor Ragnarok when it comes to the style of the film. There's a lot of humor, and there are some dark moments. Although I feel like in this film, there's a lot more humor than there was in Ragnarok. Now I get it, the humor was praised in Ragnarok, and it's still great almost 5 years later. In this film, it's still funny, but I will admit it does kind of feel a bit overdone at times. There's still some dark, serious moments, particularly closer to the end of the film. The second half of the film, I feel like, gets more into those more serious elements of the movie. But yeah, you do still see some of the same similar things from Thor Ragnarok. They do use the trailer from the song from the trailer, sorry, again, similar how Thor Ragnarok did. You do have a play scene where they're reenacting scenes from the previous Thor film. Thor still giving some of those witty dialogues. And I will say this, Chris Hemsworth I still think is very good as Thor, although I think he was much better in Ragnarok than he was in this film. And you also got Gore, who's now like telling stories about Thor. Taika Waititi still does a very good job playing him. Tessa Thompson's still very good as Valkyrie. She's the king of Asgard, and she's once again very good in this film. And of course, Natalie Portman returns as Jane Foster. Now, it's been a while since we've seen this character since Thor: The Dark World, and she returns in this film. And I would say this is probably the best Natalie Portman has been as Jane Foster in these MCU Thor movies. I think she did a very good job in this film. I thought the story arc that she goes through. I very much thought it was very good for her. And minor spoiler, but they do kind of go with the cancer story arc that we've seen in the comics, and how that's connected to her being Thor, being the mighty Thor. But yeah, I feel like as far as her appearances in the MCU go, this is definitely her best performance so far in the MCU. And maybe that's because with a different director like Taika, who brought out the best in the Thor franchise with Thor Ragnarok, it also helped bring out the best with Jane Foster's character. Natalie Portman's a very good actress, so the fact that with Taika's style and Natalie Portman being a very good actress, it finally brought something very great out of Jane Foster's character. Now, as far as the villain Gore, the God Butcher goes, Christian Bale plays him, and Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors. I think he always gives great performances, no matter how good or bad the movie is. And in this film, I thought he was very good in this movie. Do I think he's the best MCU villain? No, but I think he's definitely one of the better ones. If there's one thing that I think Thor: Love and Thunder got better from Ragnarok, it's that I think Gore the God Butcher was a much better villain than Hela. I still think Hela was a very good villain, but I feel like with Gore, I think Christian Bale gave a strong performance. I wish we got to see a bit more of Gore, but I think Christian Bale did a great job with the performance. It definitely felt like at times he went back to his American Psycho roots and did a great job with this character, and you understand this character's motivations, and I like that they explored that at the beginning. I think if that's one thing they did a bit better than Ragnarok, it's that they explored the villain a bit better. Though Hela, I think, did have more screen time in Ragnarok than Gore did in Love and Thunder. And speaking of like screen time, I will say when it comes to the runtime of this movie, it's like around 2 hours. I think it's a bit less. I feel like this was a movie that should have been longer. Now I get it, the first two Thor films are two of the shortest in the MCU, but a movie like this that has much bigger stakes should have probably been at least 5 to 10 minutes longer. Thor Ragnarok was around 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It should have been around the same runtime. Now again, I feel like they still cover a lot in those less than 2 hours because they're going to all these places. You got all these characters. but it feels like this should have been longer. And apparently, there is a cut where the Grandmaster once again appears and other characters. So maybe we'll one day see that. Doesn't mean make the movie bad. No, the movie I think is still pretty good, but it would have been nice to have gotten a much longer movie, or at least like a 5 to 10 minute longer movie. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in this film, but they're in this film very briefly. For some people, I think they were expecting the Guardians to play a similar role that the Hulk played in Ragnarok, but no, they're in this film very briefly. But when they are in the film, they're still entertaining. But it does make me look forward to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 next year, where we get to see these characters a lot more. The soundtrack's still very good. It's got another retro feel to it. That's why I like what Taika does with these Thor movies. He brings a retro feel to them, and I know it's not always for everyone, but it changes things up with the Thor franchise. I know a lot of people are trying to like change history around and say the first two Thor films were much better than what they originally were, but in all honesty, I feel like people, at least general audiences, to get them to the theater, they much more prefer the style that Taika does. But yeah, with Thor: Love and Thunder, I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was very good, but it's not as good as Ragnarok. It tries to replicate a lot of the things that Ragnarok does, and while it does those things well, the humor at times feels like it's a bit overdone. It feels like this actually should have probably been a much deeper movie than Ragnarok, and the second half feels a lot deeper, but it probably should have been also a bit more deeper with the first half of this film. But yeah, Chris Hemsworth is still very good as Thor in this film. I think Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, this was her best performance as this character. And no, she's not replacing Thor. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, she's going to replace Thor. No, she's not. I'm not going to spoil why not, but she's not. Christian Bale, I thought was very good as Gore the God Butcher. I enjoyed the soundtrack. I enjoyed the visuals. There's a couple visuals though that could have been improved. Like minor spoiler, when this one character is talking to Thor, and the visuals with that certain character look a bit off. But most of the visuals and most of the screenshots that they have in this film do look very good. I get it. Not every VFX effect, not every special effect is going to turn out all that well because apparently the VFX team for not just these Marvel movies, but just movies in general. There's a bit of a rush because of the pandemic, and that's why they delayed these movies because this movie was supposed to come out in May. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out in March, but they delayed the movies by 2 months because of the VFX teams being behind schedule. So I can be forgiving with that kind of stuff. But yeah, all in all, with Thor: Love and Thunder, I'm gonna give this film a B plus. I very much enjoyed this film. The way it ended, I do want to get to the ending without spoiling. The ending was unexpected. I like when movies have an unexpected ending and unexpected direction. So I'm glad to see that they took a risk with the ending, and I think the ending worked out pretty well. But yeah, this is probably my second favorite Thor film. Nowhere near as good as Thor Ragnarok, though. That's still my top 10 MCU movies. But yeah, all in all, Thor: Love and Thunder, I'm gonna give this film a B plus. I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the performances. I still enjoy Taika's style a lot, but again, it did feel like at times it was trying to replicate what Thor Ragnarok did, and the only upgrade that this movie had from Ragnarok was the villain. But yeah, and I will address because I'm in a future video about the concerns of the MCU going forward. Although I'm still enjoying Phase 4, but I'm going to address like some of the concerns people have with not just the movies but the TV shows in a future video. But yeah, what do you guys think about Thor: Love and Thunder? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it your favorite Thor movie? Is it your least favorite Thor movie? For me, my favorite is still Ragnarok, and my least favorite is still The Dark World, and that's also my least favorite MCU movie. Comment below and let me know. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share this with someone that likes the Thor movies. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.